Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed. Welcome to what is sure to be one of the most stressed out episodes, I think, in Anytime history. I, as always, am Alden Diaz, the Alden in Anytime with Ken and Alden. The Ken is not here. He is in Barbie Land, I guess. Or can we still make those jokes? Has it been too long since the movie to do Ken energy jokes? I don't know, but he's in San Francisco. We will let you know where you can see Ken actually tonight, live performing comedy, when we get into some of our plugs and everything. But I brought in one of my very favorite people, one of my best friends in the world, one of our contributors over on Casually Talk, a co-creator and co-host of the Imperial Senate podcast, or collaborator on Octo Radio, host of the Yub Nub Club, gentleman scholar, and ladies, he's single. Titles. He's single. It's Nicky Kumar. Sir Nicky's here. Niquishas is here. Hello.
There you go.
Yeah. Sound is really low, Jared. You're right. Like, you just can't talk over your own music without bringing it all the way down, and it just be like that sometimes. But we're good. We're fine. How are you? Look. Discourse. Yeah, you'll notice that the thumb, the thumbnail, you just sort of try to convey some tone. It's a wild week. I think I'm the first person to put these four together in any context. Governor Tim Walz, Osha Anasea, Vice President Kamala Harris, and TBD on what his real name is, the stranger / Chimere. This is for a very obviously specific niche of people that pay attention to the comings and goings of the American, I don't want to say just Democratic Party, but just politicians in general, and Star Wars fans, which, if George had his way, would be a much bigger cross-section. But evidently there are people that still think they're not connected at all. So let's see who else is here. Nicky Boy. People are excited to see you. How does that feel?
Finally, that's what I'm saying.
They finally caught up. Yeah, it's been an interesting one, man. So let me take your temperature and just sort of see how are you doing. It's toward the end of August now, in September 2024. Horribly, horribly, I must confirm that for you, that we are about to enter the fourth quarter of the year. How does that sit with you?
Where'd the time go, man? That's what that's what it's always. It's like, it's weird, and it's one of those things where it's like time moves so fast, but we also perceive all of it. So it's like, it's fast. It's not. It's like I don't not remember anything, but it's just shocking, and it's one of those things where it's like, when we talk a lot about what we talk about, which is TV shows we watch. It's almost like you get through the year by simply just bouncing from the next to the next, right? So it's like I don't even perceive months anymore. It's like, it's Rings of Power soon, right? Like it's not even it's not even August, like not even late August. So it's just weird. It's a weird way to live, because we're just bouncing from entertainment to entertainment. But I mean that's in large part a piece of today. One of those pieces is taken off the board, so to speak. So
you're right.
So
you're right.
I don't know if that was an answer to your temperature question, but it's just
it was something.
Time is weird.
You're right. I mean, we are only ever thinking in sort of what we're engaging with at any moment, whether that's even small things like the point in your day where you like check all your social media apps and everything, which is a plague. And we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about how you've been handling that recently, with stepping back a little bit, not leaving any of them, but just sort of paying more mind to your bandwidth and your energy levels. Box Office Jack's here. Hello, David McKay. We've got 8984M says that it was great to meet you the other day.
Oh, what's up? Good to see you. Good to see you in the chat.
Indeed. Yeah, over at Joseph's Horror Years Old live variety show celebrating his birthday. Joseph Scrimshaw, a Force Center, one of the greats. Padme 2024. I, honestly, like, yeah, but like, I don't know if she would want to deal with America. If you know, because we're so like America centric that we think that automatically she would be our politician. I think Padme would be like New Zealand prime minister, like Jacinda was for a while. You know?
Yeah, no, she'd be like in Sweden or something for sure.
Yeah, like she's not getting down with either of our parties. I don't think.
Too much thunderous applause over here.
Yeah, no, all the time with the thunderous applause. Eli from In a Galaxy's here. The only direct Star Wars political metaphor I've made is Anto Krieger with John Fetterman, and that didn't turn out too well. No, it did not. That was when Fetterman was still babyface. Padme 2024, critically not Padme actor 2024. No, we will not be getting anyone from the Clone Wars cast to run for office. I can say that with with pretty much full confidence that would be a not good thing. So we got the DNC was this week. I don't know if you heard. That's over. We have now overcome the first like big rumor situation of the Kamala era, which was who is the special guest for DNC final night, and then it turns out there was no special guest. That was all BS, which is pretty funny. To the point where like even Mitt Romney was on Twitter like, I'm not there. I don't know why people keep saying I am. Maybe it's Taylor Swift or Beyonce. It was not Taylor Swift. She was busy, I don't know, doing whatever it is she's doing
in a jet.
In a jet somewhere, just like ruling the world, but not coming down to our level.
Tarmac and blast me in. Just to add to the atmosphere a little.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not even in the air. Maybe the jet is just like
just that.
How some people have mansions. Yeah, the real Beyonce was the friends we made along the way. I would love that, to be honest.
Yeah.
We got JMB saying Northern Europe for Padme. I agree. Yeah, let us know where you think Padme. What a weird question. Where would you rank Padme in our world leaders? Boop, Discourse. I hardly know her. I don't know if that one works, Boop, but I appreciate it. The DNC was this week. The Walt Disney Company. Walt Disney. I don't even know if it would be motion pictures. Does motion pictures also control the television? Is that just, or do they have a TV? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Walt Disney.
Just studios. Yeah.
Studios decided to, and I will stress this. We're going to say canceled in this conversation, but we should establish that that is not technically what happened. It was more so of we're not going to make more that beyond what we said we would, which is a different thing. There were some clarifications. We'll get to that actually later. We decided beforehand that might actually be the saltier part of the conversation.
The less important stuff first. How about that?
Yeah. Look, this whole election stuff, like if I don't know what happens to Osha and Kymir, then how can I care about what's happening in our world? That just doesn't compute for me. So the DNC is like the RNC in that they have a function in our society, but I would say for our lifetimes, the late 20s, early 30s bracket has always pretty much been ceremonial. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, have we had a convention in, you're a little bit older than me, so in your lifetime that, which would be, I guess, one more presidency than I've seen. Has there been a convention that we actively went into to do convention business? Because we've always gone in with knowing what we were doing. It feels like it's never been like let's actually work it out. Yeah, like we don't know who our nom is going to be. Yeah.
I know there's like, the one way back when in like the 60s, I think, where they didn't quite know what the deal was and they actually had to do the business. I don't know the history of convention too well, but yeah, certainly for our lifetime, it's been pretty just, this is who it is. We've been through a primary, or it's an incumbent or whatever.
Or in this case, it was just, there was only one thing to do and we know what it was.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. It was pretty much what you expect. in the end. Like, you know, for
Yeah.
everything that had been, you know, flipped upside down about a month ago, this was pretty straightforward. Like, I think because there was so much like in the past, like ringing and like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't blah blah blah. Like, what do you do here? And in the end, it was like it was all fairly straightforward, to where you wouldn't even really know that there had been a change. so yeah, it's yeah, it just that's kind of just how it shook out.
I mean, that's been sort of like the weird feeling of these last 3 to 4 weeks has been we have seen massive, massive landscape changes for this cycle and for American history. And it just feels like, oh yeah, that happened. Like like there was an assassination attempt, and then the incumbent president decided to give up his play to run for re-election and to step down and highlight the Vice President Harris. And Vice President Harris has elevated Governor Tim Walz to the main stage of world politics, and yet it's like that all like Walz has only been in play for 2 weeks, and it feels like so much has happened. And now here we are, and we covered the RNC a little bit here on this show, and the RNC was an absolute fucking clown show, just on every level, like, which is on brand for this era of MAGA, right? But like it was like truly like Kid Rock, Hulk Hogan, like it was just like the weirdest event. So the bar was low.
It really was. Yeah.
So the bar was low. They didn't need to go as hard as they even did. Oprah Winfrey, Lil Jon, Spike Lee, Kerry Washington, like they when were any of these people ever be together again? I don't know. Mark really Hamill, don't know. Like it just I really don't know.
I don't think anything will beat Lil Jon. Like I just don't know where you go to sort of top the whole sort of what the hell level as Lil Jon helping Georgia declare their delegates.
Yeah. To the window, to the walls. Yeah, that was real. Osvetnik. Yeah, I'm trying to say it the way Ken said it. Osvetnik, 1138. Thank you for the 1138, because that lets me know what corner of the internet you're coming from with this comment.
There we go.
Yep. Not since Santos Vinig race 06 has been an open convention. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know. It used to be 894M. It used to be the primary.
That was a
official.
That was, I believe, that was a West Wing reference, Alden.
Oh, is that what that was? Oh, is that what the winky face was for?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, is Santos
not Santos, is Jimmy Smith. Yep.
That's Jimmy Smith. Okay. See,
yep.
Man.
President Matt Santos.
President.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Yeah.
That's when you said 06. I was kind of just like, that seems weird, but whatever. Maybe it's I don't know.
The famous 06 president.
So we got Star Wars fan with a Jimmy Smith reference, and we aren't even in the Acolyte section yet. You know, no. hold on to your Star Wars cards, Osvetnik, because man, it's gonna get really, really sassy when we get there. But we start off. Obviously, there's so much to cover in a convention. It goes on way longer than what is considered to be the prime time of it. So there's a lot. There's a lot. Let's start, I guess, with we don't need to go speech by speech and big figurehead by big figurehead, but what stands out to you from this DNC in terms of tone, in terms of the speeches that sort of have stuck with you, and just sort of in terms of like the fact that it's a radically, not ideologically, but it's a radically tonally different party outlook than it was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the ultimate takeaway, is sort of macro level of that feeling of being either like, at best we have no idea how this is gonna go, or at worst we're toast. Flipping from that to this sort of like, I think they like someone passed out the memo that was like, say joy every time you can. So sort of like joy became this this sort of theme of sort of the Democratic side when it comes to this election. And I think it is like, in the end, I think it's the right play just because, you know, we do see the other side, which is very sort of everything sucks. You know, that kind of vibe, and you know, it does suck. And you know, I don't think we would necessarily agree with that side on the reasons and solutions as to making it not suck anymore. But like, things do suck. But I think when it comes to the election, it is important to galvanize positively. And I think to be able to get the convention, which was weird because I don't remember. Actually, this goes hand in hand with a lot of things. I don't remember a lot of things being so social media based, like the Olympics. I do not remember an Olympics that got memed so heavily. Even in like 2020, 2021, like Tokyo, like everybody was sat at home, you know, with COVID times. Like, I don't remember the 2020, 21 Olympics being, you know, so social media heavy, and I don't remember convention being so social media heavy, like in terms of just the way things were being talked about and picked up and passed around and whatnot. So it's like, I think when you're sort of reaching that level, it's like, I think it is important to remind people, yeah, things suck, but you know, we can move forward. We can try to get stuff done. And I think the best way is a positive way. I don't think going on and I think that's not ignoring the risks, right? Like, we do have to be serious about the problem, and you can't just be like, yeah, no, we can be happy, you know, look at these guys. Like, you do have to sort of you know, face that with seriousness, and also like I remember, I think it was in Tim Wall's speech where it's like he was doing the weird thing again, like, oh, they're so weird, but then like remembering to punctuate that with, and that's dangerous, you know, like it's not just silly weird. Like, we need to you know, go head to head with it. So yeah, I think I do remember. Yeah, for sure. I think that's like that's sort of the way you have to approach it, because yeah, we can meme our way through an election, but it's like, that doesn't change the fact that it is like the stuff we make fun of is dangerous too.
And that was the whole thing with, you know, we're jumping around, but like, to go to Kamala's speech last night, I mean, this is her moment. This is her firmly not just accepting, but like announcing herself, giving us a taste of what the presidency will feel like, more so than even rallies. Because rallies, it's like you're bringing your same speech to different places and slightly customizing it, you know, for individual crowds, or sometimes bringing up a guest, or having, you know, if you're in PA, you bring out Shapiro. If you're in Chicago, you bring out Pritzker, like different changes like that. But this was like, okay, what will all the world's eyes are on her? What will that feel like? And she brought that balance to it with saying he is an unserious man, but the consequences of choosing him are deadly serious.
Exactly.
Jerry from Bombadcast is here to say bonjour.
Hey, there we go.
Jerry and Scotty celebrated 5 years last night on the Bombadcast. Congratulations, boys. Definitely head over to Bombadcast and check out the anniversary special, which was, you could watch the whole thing, or you could watch the clipped out straight through 2-hour edit masterpiece that they've created. Matty Gunner checking in. What's up, bros? G'day.
Hello, Matty.
I guess you're not Australian. Oi. There you go.
So insulting.
The 5-year show was great, Eli. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, that balance was key. Like, you definitely want everybody to hit everything very positively and show their charisma and show that they can be not weird. But also, where are we going? What is it going to feel like? You know, a lot of people have called this, in terms of strategy, the big tent approach, where it's like, are you not a MAGA cultist? You are welcome in the resistance, basically, is what it felt like. Because we had ex-Trump, I believe, the comms director. You had, and look, I will say, these are to take it to a real place, these are people that, when you also know what was going on at the convention all week,
yeah,
it is a little frustrating. I will say that. It's, you know, we look at speech content, and we look at people like Walls, and we look at different things, and we can feel very positive. But we should say, because we're going to get into it anyway, the entire week, the uncommitted delegates from different places that all share this belief, and I completely agree with it, and I would understand. Of course, the nuance of, well, Harris is still the VP for the guy who is, you know, we're still in this era, even if it feels like he's not relevant anymore. He's still the president until January, no matter what, no matter who wins. It feels like, you know, there is a lot of pain underneath it. The fact that they, you know, the uncommitteds, speaking out against the genocide happening in Gaza, the genocide against the Palestinians, like that, of course, has been the moral issue of our time. It's not an exaggeration, I think, to say that it's our generation's Vietnam. And they were ignored. They were asking for 5 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, just to put someone on stage. Who it's not just like anyone. These are delegates. So it's like, shouldn't we? And they were ignored. And then seemed like there was a chance. And then there's rumors from the Democrats that offers were made, but like, who knows? Then as of last night, they linked arms and tried to peacefully get to their seats. They were blocked. It's a whole thing. And then you've got, like I said, Trump people up there, or Border Patrol cops and a sheriff. And like, isn't that great? But I guess, not that I'm defending it or devil's advocating, but like, I guess that is the end result of the big tent strategy, is that you're going to have like the weird bedfellows shit. And like, and it didn't that's why it felt plausible that they would bring out Romney. That's why it felt plausible that they would get fucking stupid and bring out W. Like, because it feels like a thing they would do.
Oh man, yeah, that would be weird.
I legit thought W was gonna come out.
Yeah,
I was like, it's not Taylor Swift. He's gonna come out and be like, everybody out there that supports traditional values is not MAGA.
Yeah,
like I for sure thought they were gonna do it.
That would be unbelievable television and politics. It'd be just insane. Insane. Oh man, I wish it happened now. Just to see.
The internet after W turns coat would have been the wildest thing.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I know what you're saying about it, and I think, like, honestly, I do think it is like the correct strategy on that macro level. Like,
separate from specifically Palestinian delegation.
Yeah, separate from who's excluded. And it's I think it is the right way. And like, I always sort of I always see this like similarly to Game of Thrones, when Jon Snow's like, just shut up, they're coming, right? Like, you know, and everybody like, blah, 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 blah. And so like, just, you know, I think there are times when you do sort of have to be like, hey, are you normal? Are you like normal enough? Like, we need to work together. We need to work together. So yeah, I mean, I think that is the right way for this time. But yeah, I mean, there's no like excusing or rationalizing leaving people, like, you know, leaving people who are it's one thing to be like, well, they're just loony. It's like, these aren't loony people. Like, these are people, like, you know, speaking on this gigantic, as you say, like, moral and you know, destructive issue. And it's like, there's no rationalizing. I think I saw some like communications person be like, you know, no, we like spoke, we had a panel with them. Like, yeah, but I mean, like, that's good. Have the panel, please. But like,
but this is what this is for this.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not like, it's not a placeholder for what they could offer. And it's a really, again, like, when it all started, I was like, I don't envy the president. Like, this, like, it is one of the worst lines to walk on a political and just sort of like the power, you know, world powers level. Like, it's insane. And so it's like, you know, it think that's the problem. It is very delicate, and to just sort of have the what looks like just a hand in the face is, yeah, there's no rationalizing it.
Yeah, it's that's a good way to put it. Like you can't. It's like a thing we've done on the show a bunch of times, is like try to emphasize like the multiple truth stuff, while also not trying to sound like we're both siding that issue, because we obviously are not. Like me, you, Ken, everybody that's been on, like we all firmly agree that we can see the evidence of our eyes and ears, just like the UN has, just like Spain, Colombia, Ireland, France, like just like we firmly understand what's going on. The ICJ, you know, the ACLU, the HRC, like we all agree that what they are doing is beyond the pale, and it is very clearly what it is. And I think the frustration is not that, like, I don't think anyone realistically believes that Kamala was going to come out last night and just be like, you know, break ranks with Joe in front of the world and here's my plan, and like that's just not going to happen. Like, even if I would love that, like
no
it's
president will. I get like
no, yeah,
no president will. Like that, and
that'll never happen.
that's a harsh reality. And
Yeah.
it's like anybody who would do that will never be the president. Like it's just not. It's like it's one of those things that like you just, it won't happen.
Yeah, but for the smaller point of like stage time, it's like, yeah, because like you said, these aren't just crazies or disruptors, and even then, even if they were like just protest disruptors, like it's not even like protesters demanded stage time. It was the delegates that were going to be there anyway wanted stage time.
Yeah, it's like they're teammates. They're teammates.
Yeah,
like it's,
and so that's frustrating, and it's one of those things where it's like during her speech when she got into Israel, and I was like listening to it and my stomach was turning because she was going so hard for them. And then she ends that section with, I think, a point or a piece of the speech that was certainly an improvement. That was definitely more than we've heard from definitely Biden, definitely maybe even Obama. I know his views on Palestine have been controversially shifted a lot, where like young Obama would be out to dinner. There's photos at like out to dinner with, you know, activists, and then President Obama, obviously. Like, so there's that difference. But her saying, you know, the right to exist and to have dignity, I'm paraphrasing, and, you know, and security and everything for the Palestinian people. I was glad she didn't run away from that just by doing the PR thing of just saying Gaza. That way you don't have to say Palestine.
yeah.
So like she definitely emphasized that, but she also fell into some pitfalls of repeating a couple, like the whole, like, you know, there was mass sexual violence on October 7th. That we just know that that's false. Like we know that that's false. But we also know that there is mass sexual violence happening in the Israeli detention camps. And so it's like there's always going to be that Family Guy meme of like the 3 lighter shades and the 3 darker shades is like innocent guilty.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. I would hope, you know, as you've seen here, you know, JMB says the thing to keep in mind, as enthusiastic people have been, she is part of the Biden administration, exactly as we've said. Yeah, 100%. Her policies hew close to that, but she is shifting away from some of Biden's, and that's true too. Is that Kamala, come November, I think we'll have, the closer and closer we get to the reality of President Harris, the more we get a fuller picture of the ways that she will differ from Joe, because you know, Joe is not, I don't want to just make this a bash Joe session, but like he was never going to be the future in the way that she could be. He was never going to be steps forward in the way that she could be. If Joe was still the nominee, even if Joe wins, Joe from 24 to 28 would have just been hopefully picking a successor. So it's complicated, and it is frustrating. And I think I wanted to have this tangent because it is hard to feel energized and joy about people like Walls, like I do, while also seeing what's happening and knowing full well that there is a genocide taking place, and it's on us in a lot of ways, financially and strategically. And it's frustrating. Like everyone agrees that like we've talked about this since October, you and I, even off air, like nobody in their right mind likes Hamas. That's bullshit. You know, like nobody likes Hamas. But also Netanyahu is a war criminal, and we know this.
Right.
And so it's like that's the whole like every single person got asked, do they condemn Hamas for those first few months? And it's like, yeah, no shit. But like this has nothing to do with that. At a certain point, it's like, they're scumbags and they have awful things in their doctrines. But like, what about these dead kids? And that will always be the thing. And so it's definitely conflict throughout the whole week.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't even know where to start.
And what is your plan? And what is your plan, Nikki?
Here's how I fix the Middle East. I mean, it's just, there's so much history involved with it that it's like you can't even. Like people want to start history on October 7th. People want to start history on 3000 BC. Like it's like pick your point and it's like I don't know. I think what was most promising about her speech in that regard was it reflected how I feel, which is you're not going to get anywhere, nor should you, without the cooperation and consent of both parties. Like that's the reality. And so it's like, I think, like, in my opinion, it is about creating a safe Israel and a safe whatever we can make for the Palestinians, whether it's the two-state, whether it's just equal representation under the law, whatever. Like, you're not going to get anywhere if you ignore one side. So I think that's the future that, she's the president, she has to work towards building, and whatever deal there's a lot of talk now about what the administration's doing with others around the world in terms of hostage release and ceasefire and blah blah blah, and they're gonna have to get that through because obviously doing something is better than doing nothing. But
and the thing too to note is that the official Israeli social media is a plague. Like they're soldiers on TikTok and like all like they are doing the worst job ever at acting like this is not what it is. But Israeli citizens for the last while, they fucking hate Netanyahu. Like
they were in the streets protesting him when he was like messing with their judiciary. This was like over a year ago. So it's like, there's plenty of people who don't want this. Like,
and it's hard because it's like, Biden's administration will be like, well, we're working toward a deal and we're just waiting on Hamas to agree. And then every news source in the world is like, Hamas is at the table, and then Netanyahu or one of his boys will be like, yeah, we're not agreeing to anything. That means we have to stop the combat. It's like, it becomes like we can watch them dog walking Biden and making fun of him basically and clowning him. And that's going to be, like you said, it's going to be probably the challenge of this term. Should she win, which I am feeling better about. But hopefully we can continue to build some momentum. So we wanted to establish that because I don't want to get into the happy of it disingenuously or make it seem like you and I aren't paying attention to the obvious, which is like it was a mishandling of the convention, and that will probably be the thing that marks this convention forever after Lil Jon. And the fact that I can say that seriously is the most American thing. So I mean, we got people talking here. Eli with a great comment. Much like the U.S. is controlled by extreme religious zealots, the only difference is the religion of the zealots. That's true. Like Eli from In a Galaxy, who's a great show, runs our trivia league as well, Epic Confrontations. I remember a while back in an episode, Eli dropped a comment where he's like, well, now, those extreme zealotry and like the people pro what Netanyahu is doing, they consider Jewish Voice for Peace to be Hamas. And it's just like everybody's Hamas, or everybody is the useful idiots, as Netanyahu called them when he was here. So we'll see what it's like for Kamala going forward. But is there anything else from Kamala specifically that you wanted to touch on before we get into Walls and some other people?
Kamala specifically makes me laugh because if she becomes president, South Asians, part of my community, will go and high five Black people and say, "We did, we got there, and look how many people we beat." There's so many ethnicities I would have picked before South Asian getting into the White House, and but if you know, it might happen. It might happen when I get there. So that always just kind of cracks me up. I would not have put, like, you know, South Asian over Latino or whatever. You know, like that would have been like baffling to me a few years ago. So now we're in this place where you can have that shot to the White House. And another like great thing about Kamala is the photo somebody grabbed.
Oh yeah, let me get the name.
Like,
yeah,
somebody was like Pulitzer, baby, and they saw it and they knew. And yeah, I think, you know, those things are all very powerful and, you know, representative of you know, the moment we live in, which is you know, for everything we just talked about the last 10 minutes, like for all the bad, you know, we have to still sort of stock of what we're doing and the things we're sort of on the brink of achieving, you know. And I think I think that's sort of like my general takeaway, certainly from last night. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I've never sort of been on the fence in terms of who I'm gonna vote for this November. So it's like, it's really influencing me. I heard the CNN undecided voter panel, 6 of the 8 said they now sort of decided to vote for her. Whatever, you know, not that they're like legally bound by that, but like sort of.
Can I say something? Can I say something in this real quick?
Please. This is your show.
Todd Heisler from the New York Times took that photo, and I agree, Pulitzer worthy, instant iconic, will probably be recreated as paintings and shirts and stuff. I just want to jump in on the undecided voters panel real quick.
Oh yeah,
undecideds, yeah, JMP. The undecideds are the most wild to me. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I acknowledge that the undecideds exist in the same way that I acknowledge that the never Trumper Republicans exist.
Mm-hmm.
But I also am baffled by both. For the never Trumper Republicans, first of all, I know this is none of my business, but I would love proof of that, because I know they love to be like that because they don't want to be associated with the they don't want to be associated with the bullshit. They don't want to be associated with the literal crimes, the sex crimes, the violent crimes. They don't want to be associated with that, and fine. But are they actually breaking rank? I find it hard to believe sometimes. Then the undecideds. So it's August 2024. When did he come down that fucking escalator? In 2015, like summer?
15.
Like,
and then even before that, he was
already
like
the birther stuff. So it's like, let's call it a decade just for the sake of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It has been abundantly clear what is going on. If you don't have an opinion either way, forget his oppositions, you know, Kamala Joe. I just mean on him. Like, if you're still like, I'm not sure if this is for me, you are useless right now. Like, I don't understand.
I honestly think they're more likely than not people who want to vote for Trump but are too embarrassed to say they do.
So which is kind of the never Trumpers. Yeah, it's kind of the same group in that way.
So like, I think that's probably more than being undecided. Because it's like where maybe they like became self-aware like in the last year. Like, I don't know. Like,
it would be like being,
but
it would be like we both just saw Alien Romulus and we both love the movie and like we've been talking about it a lot. Like, it would be like being a character in that world and not knowing where you fall on the xenomorph. It's like no, anti. Like, or if for some reason you're pro, there's
Look,
enough
I like how
evidence at this
they
point.
I like how they tell it what it is, you know, like they just...
Yeah, he tells it like it is. He's all about you know, it's JD Vance would probably watch Romulus and be like, well, you see, they're about having kids. They're about the
IVF.
family unit. It's about IVF. Someone asked JD Vance what his 4 faves are. I'm done. I don't want Letterboxd to have to do it, but I would love that.
Yeah, it'd be like a Hillbilly Elegy, and that's it.
Hillbilly Elegy and American Sniper, and then he would name 2 Scorseses that he's never watched. He'd be like Goodfellas and The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone tell me what you think JD Vance's 4 faves are in the comments.
Yeah.
I want Tim Walls' 4 faves. That's a great comment. I also want Tim Walls' 4 faves. Oh man, let's do that for a second.
Like the same is like in there.
Yeah, I feel like 2 sports movies and 2 dad classics. Like Sandlot's a great choice.
Like Remember the Titans or like Rudy or something. Maybe Rudy.
Yeah, I'm going Rudy. Miracle could also be on there.
Yeah.
I think, which Indiana Jones does Walls choose? Because I feel like he'd be an indie guy.
I'm gonna say Raiders, just because he probably like saw that first and
that's true
and stuck with it.
Yeah, and then maybe he would surprise us and like throw in a comedy in there. Could you imagine if he was just like, oh yeah, Princess Mononoke? I would be like, holy shit.
Get it? Oh, man.
Oh my god, JD Vance's Hillbilly Elegy, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Atlas Shrugged.
Oh my gosh, it's funny how not off base throwing Revenge of the Sith on the bus.
Unfortunately, it is the one that people can choose where it's like, okay, but why? Like,
yeah. We gotta, you gotta ask the second question with that one.
This is true. 8984M. Walls is a Star Wars fan. There's a video with him and Gus. Yeah, Gus has the Revenge of the Sith novelization, and Walls.
That's like one of the best videos ever.
It's so good.
Like, Gus, why do you like this? Oh, it's cool. It's dark.
Yeah, a lot of dark stuff happens.
Like.
And Walls also pro sequel trilogy, at least in as much as he was excited to see them, because there's a picture of him and Gus. He posted going to see Rise of Skywalker and talked about seeing A New Hope with his dad. So that's really sweet. Walls is a Dreamcast guy, so probably Sonic movie 2. That's good call. Yeah, the Dreamcast thing. Have you seen that, Nikki? Them trying to go after him for Dreamcast? So a new conservative talking point is that when the Sega Dreamcast came out, Walls apparently played it so much that Gwen had to unplug it and hide it because he was just playing Dreamcast all day. And I'm like, oh, so he's awesome. Like, yeah. So let's talk about him because we finished up talking about Kamala. She would be like as you noted it in the high five metaphor, which I love. I love the idea of both communities, just like these whole cultures being like, we did it again.
Yeah.
She would be our second Black president and our first president and maybe the first outside of the subcontinent itself. Does the subcontinent have a world leader right now in a different place? I don't think so.
I mean, they had Rishi Sunak.
Oh yeah, they had Rishi Sunak, which
but
not as exciting. But
no, certainly not. But it does unfortunately count. And actually, this is the point I want to touch on really quickly because it pissed me off.
Please.
And it, the classic villain pissed me off. Where when Trump went on like, oh, I thought she was black. Oh, now she's black. I thought she was Indian. Blah, 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 blah. And just like, as a mixed race kid, watching people like blow their minds with the concept of a mixed race person.
Yeah.
And like it's sort of just this thing of like always watching people try to pick your identity for you. Yeah. It's like Kamala is a black woman and a South Asian woman. Like that's like when she tells stories about, what her, experiences with her mom and what they ate, and then it's like, it sounds like what we ate. Like it's just insane watching people bend over backwards to like not understand identity. And I don't even know if that's necessarily like only one side does it. People in general don't know how to approach sort of the idea of belonging to several things at once. And that's my like stump speech as a mixed race person. I don't have much else to go with. It just like annoys me watching people like try to tell you what you are, what you should be like. When it's like, when you grow up like multi-ethnic, like you're all of it, and some things reflect stronger than others, but like, just it was really annoying watching, and it's even more bizarre when JD Vance is sitting there with his mixed race kids, and it's like, it's like you really
who happen to be half what she is also half of.
Exactly,
these are Indian children.
It's just ridiculous.
I mean, I'm glad that you spoke to it in those direct terms, because it's not something that I'm Puerto Rican, but I'm only Puerto Rican. But I see it with my nephews. Like, they're not old enough yet to articulate it. I think my oldest nephew is now. He's starting to be more vocal, but like how my nephew, I think, definitely considers himself more attuned to being Black, but also like I've had conversations with my sister too, where my sister's like, I should try to like put more Puerto Rico into his experience too. And like, but his experience will always be just his, but also it's so many people's. It's like the specific and the universal. And I honestly hope that Kamala, as she continues this, speaks to that. I think that would be really, really cool, because she's in a different position than even Barack Obama was, where they did not try that shit with Obama. One, because the Republican Party wasn't a cult yet. They were, not my preferred ideological party, but that's not the John McCain playbook. And even Romney, with some of his weirdo religiousness, that was not the Mitt Romney playbook.
He wasn't interested in that.
Yeah, they were not going to do that stuff. But even the punditry, like even the pundits didn't do it, because they couldn't look at Barack Obama with a straight face and be like, that's a white guy. They had he forced them to reckon with the reality of his identity. So instead, they just focused on his middle name. But that's the Islamophobia of our country. But with Kamala, like she's at a unique position where they are this ravenous, outright racist group now in a lot of ways, and she represents not white people and Black people. She represents two marginalized groups, which I think would be really, really powerful and affecting if she went for it. Yeah, absolutely. Looking at some of the comments here, so A9A4M, some people couldn't wrap their minds mixed race, and one of those races not being white. Exactly.
Right.
David McKay points out that Republic of Ireland used to have somebody from Southeast Asia as well. Looking at these, who's on RFK is speaking now to endorse Trump. Oh, shut the fuck, man. Get the fuck out of here. He's on CNN. Look, I don't love.
Put the worm back in, man.
Yeah, like get him out. Get him out of here. It's hilarious. Like the RFK of it all, just to do like a quick bit on him, is like, I love, first of all, if there was ever a question of what was going to happen. Like, this country, we have to do our due diligence, and it is right to report on the other people. I do agree with that. Whether it's a crazy person like RFK, whether it's a person who is not crazy but largely useless like Jill Stein, where it's like, she only shows up to raise money and remind people that she's Jill Stein, and then for 4 years she doesn't do anything. She doesn't do
presence.
She doesn't run for local. She doesn't run for a Congress. She doesn't do shit. So there's also that, and we've seen some other players over the years. But the whole like what's going to happen with RFK, people reporting it like it wasn't obvious what was going to happen. Like a couple days ago, ABC was running a story, at least here on local, that was like, well, there's talk that he's trying to reach the Harris campaign and would be interested in endorsing in exchange for a cabinet seat. And it's like, somebody sit that old man down and tell him he's not a part of this in any real way.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing and like also like sad that because like his whole family is like nobody likes him. Yeah. Well, I don't know if, like likes him, but like nobody supports him doing this. It's just like to be that like oblivious to even the people like of your bloodline. It's like what kind of, I don't know what kind of relationship they have. It must be weird. And I think even like because the RFK, you can be like, RFK, I want to know this lady who like chose to run with him or like agreed, like what's her deal? Because it's like did she also have worm in the brain? Like I don't know.
The brainworm delegation is strong in this country.
I think that is the greatest headline ever written for maybe this decade / century, where it's like campaign staff say the brain found in RFK's or the worm found in RFK's brain did not eat enough to like make unstable. It's like
it's fantastic.
The brainworm of a presidential candidate did not eat too much.
Yeah, we're still in operating range for this worm-ridden brain. Yeah. So yeah, there was never any doubt in my mind that the RFK weirdos were just going to fall in with Trump. However many there are, probably an inconsequential demographic in the long term, but. Yeah, in terms of DNC, let's talk about Tim Walz, and then we'll touch on some of the other people. Tim Walz, I struggle a lot, especially increasingly so over the last 8 years, with my relationship to like patriotism, and I acknowledge, of course, my as you do, as all our friends do, like pretty much everyone we're close with, we've had it all right. Like we've lived solid lives. I haven't had to want for much, so it's like. When I say I'm pissed off at this country, it's usually ideological, but like I know I'm not suffering, of course. So with all that being said, Tim Walz is the first time since probably 2016 time, the era Bernie, that I felt like, and Warren too, to a secondary, I would say, degree, of like, oh shit, like this person made it to this level and they are different. And then you can look at the record and you're like, wow, like, even just the stuff that goes around in support of Walz now, of course, the free lunch for all the kids in Minnesota, and breakfast, the capping insulin at 35, the family leave up to 20 weeks, the no 4-year degrees for state jobs, protecting abortion rights, protecting trans rights, just like all these things that he's managed to accomplish as congressman and now governor. With the one seat that makes a difference there, and being able to do this in a red area, like he's an extremely impressive guy, and he's come, I think, at the right moment. I think we all agreed he was the right pick. It is part of what has helped build their momentum. And man, I tell you, I texted you and our buddy Reed, and I full tears during the Walz intro. The intro video already kind of got me misty-eyed. But of course, the moment that I think really touched the hearts of everyone with a soul and became ammo for everyone without a soul is Gus Walz, the 17-year-old future. He would be, I guess, the second son, I guess, of America. If you go through he'd be the second son. It is just unbelievably moving. A son who has ADHD and anxiety disorder, nonverbal learning disorder, all these things that he's had to deal with, that his parents have spoken about, have embraced him for, have helped him with, have given him love. And he stands up in front of the world and does a classic movie. That's my dad. bald, dude. I was like, I believe in this country again. This is what we can be. And I think that's why it hits everybody, is that we, for brief moments, we do sometimes get it right in those ways.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a powerful thing when politics is able to tap into humanity in like a very genuine way. And I think that I think is something that not necessarily like we lose track of, but like it's so easy to always be cynical. And obviously most things require a healthy dose of cynicism, but it's like there's moments like that where you just you get that sort of genuine reminder that, oh yeah, there are people who are good, there are people who want to help, there are people who want to build. And when you get into that place, it's like it's a powerful thing for a constituent or a voter. It's like, because then you're like, I will move mountains for this person. And like that is, I think, the beautiful side compared to the cult side. And it's like, I like, there's so many things, like obviously the world is different, but I don't know how well you remember 2008, but the 2008 election was like, it was like the peak, when Gandalf comes over the hill at Helm's Deep and the sun just goes right, like it was kind of like that. And this is the closest it's been to that.
Agreed.
Certainly with Tim Walz coming in, and I think there's just a real like genuine side to who he is and how he operates and speaks. And I don't understand this thing about like how he always brings up, people are like, oh, why should you insult people go to jail? I'm like, that's not the point. It's like, it's like, it's not. I think he in general, I think he speaks in a way that is, again, it's one of those reminders that, oh yeah, it's not, if the wide percentage of it is about self-interest and self-preservation and blah blah, I think Tim Walz is a example of somebody who is not in it for that, and in it for, I can like actually improve the lives of my neighbors and all that. And I think I think, as you said, like we all agree, and he's, I think, like the best pick they could have made. So we're lucky. We're lucky that it is him, I think.
Absolutely. And he's not a lawyer, he's a teacher, he doesn't own stocks. Like, he's proven through his decision making that he's capable of changing for the better. He's proven that he listens. I mean, you look at his family, and like Hope Walz, taking up the torch of helping people that she learned from her parents, and being a social worker and working with the unhoused. Like, it couldn't be a better compliment. Like they're such a good duo, just strategically and in terms of outreach. Charlie's here with a happy belated birthday to Dua Lipa, also RFK and Brainworm. Yes, happy belated birthday to Dua Lipa, indeed.
Surprised you didn't open.
I know. I just, I don't want her to have to engage with how salty I'm going to be in about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah,
change topics. But yeah, I think Walz just excellent. I mean, everything that he delivered. I mean, switching into coach mode at the end of the speech and putting it in like the football metaphor, like all that was wonderful. Loved it a lot. And obviously,
one thing also.
Oh, go ahead.
Or I wanted to get in before we leave the convention. I think there's I think there's and like it's so easy and sometimes appropriate and necessary to be cynical about politics.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the convention, there's a lot of like I have seen a lot of the like, this is so extra, and it is. I think like there is. I think there's something like there's this thing at the conventions where like these two ideas existed at the same time, where I'm like, do I wish our politics and certainly our elections were more normalized, casual, and like I think like obviously we have Charlie in here now, and I think in the UK they only campaign for like a month, like a month before the election, and
I mean the thing that the huge labor win was a 6-week project that just happened.
Something like that. Like it's such a minimal like by purpose. You're not spend 2 years on an election cycle type thing. Do I wish we were more like that and more low key and more like, you know, this is just a thing we do and it's boring and whatnot. I do to some degree, but then I also just on a wider human scale, self-determination is a magnificent thing. Everybody has it, and I think there isn't a part of me that looks at celebrating the ability to choose your leader as a good thing, and I do appreciate when a convention can have an element of this is like a special thing. This is somewhat of a party, for the party. And I think like both are to me, and so for all the like, why is Little John? I say specifically, why is Little John here? Making this weird, and this is so. Why is there a DJ? This is so extra. I'm like, yeah, that is also like dependent on where in the timeline you land on like what is considered extra. But yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, I think we should celebrate what we do, because it is sort of, again, on the wide spans of human history, like being able to do this is, I think, a again, something that we celebrated.
And I think too, like, it's complicated, right? It as many things are, shockingly, it's complicated with our perspectives on it. And I think that like it's particularly, the more left leaning people out there, we are both progressive guys, and a lot of our friends are, and I am a card carrying, Dem socialist, and have been for a few years, and I very much align with, your Bernie Sanders types and everything, and like, would I love to just like dismantle the system and rip it all down? Yeah, of course, like we all would, but like also, I think, talking about like another huge speaker who sort of like leveled up in her career is, of course, AOC with, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the meteoric rise of, the bartender turned people's hero, and just like everything that she's been able to do. There's a thing with like, I think a lot of young leftists are in denial of their excitement, and because it's like they see this as a betrayal, like, oh, she's up there and she thanked Joe Biden, and like, isn't that what we're supposed to be like trying to change? And it's like, I'm not saying that I like that it has to be this way, but it does have to be this way. And you have to hook in and drag it. You have to act like the fact that she showed up first night, did this speech, and had the entire convention chanting her name is a victory for her politics. That is a victory for the future. That means that when she's in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and who knows what her future holds, senator, possibly even maybe one day a contender for the big job, like, that means that the AOCs under her will have a better shot. And I feel like, I'm reading something that I had written in a conversation about this earlier, because it kind of has all my thoughts, but like, they don't want to admit that it's good to see the energy, even if some stuff is still extremely problematic, because it makes them feel less principled. And I don't think that that's the case. And it's like, to your point about celebration, having the ability to like face down this neo-Nazi cult and feel like you have a winning shot is something to sing about. Like that it is okay to feel good about the fact that these people, whether you fully agree with them or not, and I don't think any of us really fully agree with the Democrats at this point, like you're not supposed to. They work for you and you have to give them notes and replace them and move them around. Like that's our role.
That's the social contract.
that is what it is. But it's okay sometimes to be like saying like, damn, Michelle Obama's speech was great. She dunked on their asses. Does not mean that you suddenly are like, well, you're living out and you're giving in to the. It's like, okay, yeah, I fucking got it.
Who runs through these veins?
Yeah. It's like we have to acknowledge the fact that like you should want to encourage the resistance to win. And when it seems like they actually want to, which was not the case just a hot minute ago, where everything was like, oh, well, you know, you literally had Joe Biden on television saying, if he wins and we get to January, as long as I gave it my all, that's what matters. And it's like, no, that's not what fucking matters. We've changed from that, and that's okay. Like that's what, you know, part of activism is about, having to deal with this. And like that's what the big tent is. Like the big tent does let in people you don't want in, but the big tent also lets in people you do.
I think that's the thing with me, where it's like, especially like considering it's like, wouldn't you rather her be in the meeting than banging on the window outside?
Yeah,
it's like,
which she was not too long ago. Like she was having you know, sit-ins when she first got there with Pelosi's office and things like that. And you know, early Pelosi like didn't care for her, and would, you know, has that thing that came out of like, I have protest signs older than her and like shit like that. And how we've actually realized like, oh no, we need her. And we need a lot of different people. And, you know, having the Obamas both there, I think we all agree, you know, just wrapping up this section, they're never not going to deliver aces on the microphone. And they absolutely did. Hillary was, for better or worse, very consistently Hillary. So was Pelosi. Bill Clinton, I feel it was unwise optics wise too, because it kind of nullifies some of the easy cards you could play against Donald Trump with like the Epstein stuff. But I also understand why they feel they need to. I think he doesn't have it anymore, but that's an age thing.
I think there's things about him where it's like, maybe you're kind of getting some of the older stragglers with Bill. And it's also like, you know, even if you were to take away all the issues around Bill Clinton, it's like, I think even if he's a C tier now, like, which is not bad necessarily. Like it's natural. You have to like age these things out. Because I remember like 2012, Bill Clinton was like, you wheel him out and it's like, done deal, let's go.
He was still with it.
And it's like, it's not that anymore.
But also I think 12 years, like that's, you know, 12 years for an older man,
and very different political climate,
like, very different. And also the teleprompter broke and everything, so it's like, you know, whatever, we'll give him that. And then the last thing to touch on would be Oprah Winfrey, who was so good that everyone on the right, whether that's just, you know, moderate conservative Dem right all the way to the neo-Nazis, every single person on the right should thank their lucky fucking stars that she never wanted this job, that she never after the Oprah Winfrey show moved political, because so help me, by the end of that speech I was like, is there an Oprah ticket? Like, holy shit. And and I think we forget too, like I said this on Twitter, like she's such an institution culturally, and also obviously an actress, and been a really good actress. That there's some things that she does so sparingly. She only acts once in a while. She's never shown up to a convention, but politically gets involved once in a while. But we forget, like, this is a true blue broadcaster. Like she cut her teeth on the mic. Like she came up, people constantly being racist, constantly doubting her as a woman, all these things in the news broadcasting world. and then dominated American television for decades. And it's like she's still that person, and she just like effortlessly went in with like reportedly not much prep.
No,
incredible.
I mean, they got the gift. I think Oprah is like one of those people who sort of has the sort of you know, the Varys mentality, I suppose. You know, like I can just imagine Oprah in her office being like, "Power resides where men believe resides," and like she's too smart to go for office,
in a purple robe, like
like she's too smart. She knows her influence is 20 times bigger staying in her arena. So it's like, it's just pretty incredible to witness. And somebody I also don't want to like spend time on, but want to mention. I always do enjoy Senator Raphael Warnock speaking.
Yes,
and I thought he had a wonderful speech as well.
Very moving, and as you said in text, you don't get the job that Martin Luther King had if you don't have it. You know, like you don't have that ability. No. He speaks to a demographic that believes in like what religion says it is, and that believes in the truth of togetherness, and him emphasizing. It was one of the most beautiful moments, I think, of the convention, emphasizing that all children, American children, children in Israel, children in Palestine, children in the Congo, like these are all of our kids, and they all deserve the same treatment, which I think is really important. Really important. Okay. So the DNC, we would say, was pretty much a success, marred in some controversy, and we'll talk about more election coverage up until the bitter end. But everybody that's here, Eli, Charlie, Brian Fennessy, Jared, 8984M, you know, call the banners, let everybody know we're about to talk about Star Wars. Or not even Star Wars.
Let me hydrate.
Yeah, hydrate. Let me go to Twitter real quick. Let everybody know we're about to talk about the Acolyte. You know, look, man. So I'm just chilling, right? So I'm just enjoying my night, however many nights. It feels like forever ago already. It was literally days ago. It was literally this week. Okay. We're about to discuss the unfortunate end of the Acolyte.
Oh no.
Yeah. So the Acolyte ends. Deadline reports the Acolyte was canceled. Whether or not that is accurate was up in the air for a little bit, and then further reporting came out, I believe, from hotel bar regular Jermaine Lucier of IO9. When
that's all factual.
He is like, so are we. Hi, Jermaine. Jermaine Lucier of IO9 Gizmodo, he, I guess, reached out for clarification, and what they're running seems to be more accurate, which is, well, we only went for one. We weren't actively making two, and we are opting to not move forward. It's already extremely nuanced in terms of the business of it. Let's start personally with, I think I speak for both of us when we say fucking sucks, like just in terms of the fact that we love stories, and we love storytellers, and we love actors, and we love designers, and we love directors, and like all these people. My initial thing was like, to have something like that just ripped out from under you as a working artist, and for us as fans that were engaged in the story, like reading a book series and then having the second book just thrown in the garbage bin, like that hurt. It hurt on a lot of different levels at first, is what I'll start with.
Yeah, I think that's like an important thing to just get out, like because I don't know how twists and turns this next portion of the show is going to take in terms of where our consciousness sort of drives us. Like I do just want to get out. Like I really enjoyed the Acolyte. and I'm bitterly disappointed that it's not continuing. It's just, yeah, it was it's such a like, it's a decision that I think actually, like, if you're gonna completely divorce yourself from emotion and look at business, you're like, okay,
yeah,
I see why they did that. So I won't say it's nonsensical because it makes sense to somebody. But the fact of the matter is, like, there are no winners. Even the people claiming to have won, the worst people online, they're winners, because you know what, they sat and watched it. So it's like,
they all watched,
all
and
that.
not only that, but a lot of them made money on the back of it. Which makes it even worse. It's not just like, I'm not gonna watch and then I watch. It's like, without the work of Leslie Headland and Rain Roberts and this whole team, Kogonada, Manny Jacinto, Manla, like everyone top to bottom, without that work, you would have made less money this year. You are a fucking leech. So like, let's just start with that. Sure. They do not wake up thinking about what you do. Is the complete opposite. So that pisses me off just in general.
Parasitic relationship.
It's entirely parasitic. So it's like, emotionally, it broke my heart. I also think it's very important. We talked about this a lot with the conversation about the Democrats in terms of representation. This does suck in terms, like, I want to be like full, like, I'm not jumping to, and we'll get to this about like the jumping to blame certain people or forget blame. We're going to get into that. The destruction of Willow, and I say destruction of Willow because it was a cancellation. It was a removal. Like, that was a show.
Until that happens to Acolyte, Willow is worse.
Like, Willow's still the most egregious thing that this company has done.
It's unforgivable.
In the streaming era. They did that with a show that was openly queer, that was led by a group of women, that the supporting cast was full of people of color, that it had actors like Tony Revolori and Umar Chad Patel, like, all really championing a new vision of like what fantasy heroes could look like and all these things. And then that gets nixed, and that was bullshit. And we said this on Casually Talk when we covered it. It is still bullshit. That pisses me off. So the fact that this is the next thing, and it also is a huge step forward with the first queer person to run a Star Wars show, with a non-binary lead, with an Asian villain / lead, and an Asian hero lead. It's like all these things that it brought to the table, for that to be unceremoniously just sort of have the wings clipped. It is deeply unfortunate, and I want to stress that we both think of this and feel this, because there's going to be a section of this conversation that is very much so about the non-assholes that are acting like fucking assholes. And I want to be clear that when we are talking about fandom conduct, there are two tiers, and there is a tier of completely beyond the pale stuff and just like an unacceptable way to be as a human. And it's not always what we're talking about. And we saw this a lot with like post sequels, where you would have people acting like J.J. Abrams killed their dog, and then you'd be like, why are you acting that way? That's kind of ridiculous. And they would fire back with, oh, so are you comparing me to racist and sexist? And it's like, no, we're not. We're saying you're an asshole, which is a different thing.
And then there are times when you tweet outside of the racism, the sexism, and bigotry, I really hate this. And then people will say, are you calling me racist? And then he's like, literally, I said that's not what I said. And and then they say, well, it looks like you said that, so I'm gonna.
Okay, well, you look like a fucking asshole. You've been down that road. I've been down that road. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody who shall remain nameless, but writes for a shitty website, and I said, like, look, what I'm saying is that when you tell me that these things in episode 9 did X, Y, and Z, it doesn't follow this, this, and this, you are sounding logically like the Not My Luke people. And then they ran and said that I compared them to fandom menacers, which is not the case, because there are people that have shit Luke opinions that are great people. but are acting The very fine TLJ haters. And it's like we end up in this trap of like you cannot break down the hierarchy of offense. And even when you try to, it's like it becomes a whole thing. So look, like, yeah, the people that are celebrating this, you suck. Like, you unequivocally suck.
There's no.
And in that, it sucks if you celebrate it and you're a racist or a homophobe or any type of bigot. You fucking suck. However, separate from them, the next people I'm about to mention, I'm not accusing of those things. We have to make it real fucking clear now. It is also bullshit that you have YouTubers out there going on about stats and ratings and different things, and then tweeting things like, LOL, I was right. Where's my apology? Blah, 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 and acting like that's not celebration. People out here that don't know their ass from their elbow about art or this industry, that don't know shit from applesauce, are out here like, well, this is how they should be doing this, and I'm owed the apology, and like, well, this is what the fans want, and this is what but I miss a time when I didn't have to know any of this, but unfortunately, I do have to know some of this. And it's really, really, really fucking pissing me off. And then outside of them, you get the people that are heartbroken about this, which are a completely different group of people. And again, outside of the heartbreak of the stuff we just defined, you immediately get the, well, so this is Dave Filoni's fault, and they just want to make only Mandoverse stuff, and they just want to only, like, first of all, I can say, look, we are never going to confirm or deny anything or like do leaks and scoops. That's not what we do. But I can say, we know people that know some people. We hear some rumblings, you know. I'm never going to report any of it because that's not our game. But like, I could tell you unequivocally for a fact that Dave Filoni has nothing to do with the cancellation of this show or the ending of it. And anyone with a fucking brain can tell you that. But you've got people on Twitter doing this like, my uncle works for Nintendo bullshit, you know, that kids used to do back in the day. Of like, oh, you know, well, you know, my uncle said that they're gonna do a new Zelda. Like, you know, my source tells me that it was Filoni. It's like, oh, really? Like the same Filoni who gave like creative notes about the witches and supported this show and did sit downs with Leslie and helped hosted the fucking influencer event, and like that guy, he's the one. That's so him whose coworker Rain Roberts is an executive producer on this show. Like the immediate jump to, well, why is Lucasfilm doing this instead of the fucking like amazingly, like astoundingly obvious, it's obviously a corporate thing, blows my mind. Because if Lucasfilm didn't want this, why did they make it? If they didn't want this, why did Kathy Kennedy and the women at the top of this company, like her and Carrie Beck and Lin-Manuel Brennan and Rain, why did they go for this pitch in the room, as they've repeatedly said that they have? Makes no fucking sense. Please jump in.
You know, maybe somebody owed Leslie a favor. I don't know. Like, you know, we'll make your season. Yeah. Jeez. Again, it's like I don't know. It's like I really don't know where to start with so much of it because it is so multifaceted, and there's it feels like there's so many people I want to yell at, and like it got to the point where I'd forgotten the Acolyte had been shut off because I was just more angry at people like like screaming. And I think it's important to make the distinctions you're making where it's like these are tiers and we cannot confuse or lump what's going on. And a lot of the stuff that was really getting on my nerves was people who I think are otherwise, you know, the kind of fans I would enjoy hanging out with, but lashing out in like just a really sad and immature way. And I think that is the thing I wish I could say like more directly. Like, please stop. Like, please grow up. Like, we're all disappointed. And I think, you know, there's some of that. And there is one little wrinkle I want to add into here. And that is I myself have experienced positive emotion when it comes to a show's cancellation, and it happened recently because, as you know, I was not a fan of the Halo show on Paramount, and Halo is one of the biggest things in my fandom. It was what filled the gap between Revenge of the Sith and Clone Wars. Like, it was number one, and Halo's very close to me. And when I saw the news that they had decided not to continue with the show after 2 seasons, like, I was partly relieved because it was not like it was not a fun watch. And I think that relief was paired with, I feel really bad for the team making it. It's a horrible thing to have yourself you know, sort of thrown off the cliff. And you know, it's like, I think what it came down to is, like, as a fan of Halo who thought the show was really, really poorly representing Halo, I was relieved.
Yeah.
In part of me, I was like, maybe this means someone else will get another shot. Hey, you know, maybe somebody on this ANYTIME with Alden show might get a shot in a decade or so. But I think what is paired with that is not having the instinct to spike the football, and that is where I think the acolyte grifters have sort of failed at, you know, like, at being decent people. Because it's like, I was really not that show moved forward, but I felt bad for the people who don't get to continue performing, doing the art. And when you see people who are going on being so, like, I can understand a base reaction to, if you didn't like the Acolyte and it got canceled, being like, that feels right to me. But when you start saying this was a piece of shit, bad writing, bad idiot, you know, stupid people, woke crap, and you start celebrating, like, that is, you have officially crossed the line. Like, you are in scumbag territory.
Absolutely.
And you have built your house there, and you laying the foundations of a long-rooted residency in scumbag territory. And it's just like, yeah. So I think there's part of me that also wants to be like, there's an element where it's like, it's all right if you didn't like this and you didn't want it to continue. It's technically all right.
Or if you just don't care,
like,
if you're just like, oh, sucks.
Yeah.
You just move on, you know?
Yeah. You move on with your day. But I think there is a line that gets crossed, and I think it's sort of a wider conversation in how we talk about fandom dissenters. You know, just in terms of, like, I don't really enjoy this. Oh, so you hate the diverse cast? Like, no, not at all. You know, it's like, I just don't enjoy this. Like, you know, that's a wider conversation. You can get all sorts of things with that. But yeah, like, in terms of watching people go in on, celebrating, like, is the right phrase, where it's like, that's just, it's almost like you shouldn't even be addressed. Like, we just cut you loose because it's like, you're not contributing anything to this fandom.
No, it's just objectively trash behavior. It's, again, a business. It's a cottage industry to be a shithead online now, which is unfortunate, because that's what the algorithms will support. That's what a lot of people want to watch because they just think it's funny to watch someone rage, or, you know, they confuse their enjoyment of these things with, like, affirmations of, like, their masculinity, which is a big thing that happens too. Of, oh, well, you know, obviously the stuff that I grew up with is what it's really supposed to be, and this is truth. You know, this is confirmation of that. You get a lot of that too, and that's just fucking bullshit. Like, I hate that it got to this place. I hate that it got to this place. You and I and our friends, like, we've talked at great lengths about how it got here. It's been a steady build since, I was going to say, since, like, the lead up to Force Awakens, with, like, the attacks on John Boyega and Daisy Ridley, particularly John for being black. But it's also been going on since, you know, like, the red letter media shit, and, like, all that, which didn't seem like it was that aggressive ideologically, but set a shit tone of, oh, we can, so people want us to negatively talk about these things. Okay.
Yeah. The only thing that's changed is a faster, more accessible delivery method. Like that's the only real thing that has changed. Like I think maybe there's a deeper discussion on like, you know, the sort of trend of negativity and all that. But I think like in the end, it's like, you can't tell me that, you know, racism didn't exist in the 80s, right? Like it's always been there. It's just, the speed with which it can move and be seen is so radically different.
Yeah, it's and this is a great point from Jonah here. You know, I ended up not really enjoying the show overall in the end, but I'm disappointed it was canceled. Speaks to a larger streaming issue at the moment. Shows need to be able to grow. That was also one of my one of my initial takeaways, which was, this is above all else a streaming issue. This is a model issue. And when you look at, I think, you know, one of the immediate things that happens, even from the good people in this fandom, even the people that stand for the right things, they immediately jump to, well, why did they cave and capitulate to that? And that's not true. That is not true. But there's a difference between they caved and capitulated to the grifters and the bullshit and the haters and the bigots. But that is separate from the reality that the grifters, the bullshit, the bigots, and the haters did influence the numbers. Like that, you know, when you've got guys with a few 100,000 subs or 1 million subs, and they're getting 40,000 views on every video, like a few hours, like, and they're saying don't watch, and you have dumb motherfuckers that actively listen to them, like that's going to cause a hit. That doesn't mean that ideologically the company thinks that they're right. They don't watch this shit. I wish they did. I wish they had people that paid attention to this stuff, but it's like, but like they don't pay it. Like, I don't think people understand how not plugged in sometimes these brands are. Like when people at the Star Wars account and they're like, at Star Wars, like, why didn't you stand up for John or Kelly Marie Tran or now Amandla? And it's like, they don't, that's like, I hate to be this guy. I hate to be like dad, but like, that's not how it fucking works. Like, I agree. Of course, there should be absolutely things like what Ewan McGregor did. But what Ewan McGregor did, he was an executive producer on that show and he took it into his own hands. Like, these
that was him being like, I'm doing this. Would you like to help me facilitate it?
Or else I'm gonna post it anyway. Like, so it's like I don't want to tell tales outside of school or speak for anybody, but like, I've heard from Ken that certain people that he knows out there in LA, where you are out there with you elites,
we all know everybody.
Y'all know everybody, that like there are prominent people, some of them who have composed the scores for big movies, that didn't even know until very recently that like a fan podcasting community existed. Like, they just like, they're busy working, and if you're not on social, like, this is not a thing that you're dealing with at all. It's not what you're aware of at all. And the Star Wars social media account does not exist to be your friend. It exists to be part of the marketing arm of an organism, and that organism is owned by people that are just counting the numbers. And it sucks that this happened, but it is not indicative of like, well, why doesn't Lucasfilm want to do anything that's not legacy characters? But it's either they want to cater to the bigots or they only want to do legacy characters. If that second one was true, why did Boba Fett get this same fate? Why did the Solo sequels get canceled?
Because it's all mid, Alden.
Yeah, because it's all mid. It's all mid, of course. It's just so like, I'm not even. I just got. Yeah.
I also wanted to like just sort of mention in passing, like the thing about the numbers, almost just like on a surface level, reminds me so much of Solo, where it's like the media that was more like traditional media than like the grifter nonsense, but like the media built a perception before the movie even came out that it was going to suck. Like, and I know people like, well, I read the actor needed acting lessons, so I didn't go see it.
Exactly.
Like, and that is what happens. And like, that's what the grifters did to the Acolyte.
Yes. It's
so
not
it's
that
like,
the company agrees with
no,
that take, but it's that the company sees the results of those takes
of the
existing.
take. Yeah.
And
So
that's
it's, I think that's a huge thing to make sure gets across. It's like, it's not capitulating to theology. It's capitulating to cold hard economics. Like it
and
still
like,
sucks. There's no way around it making it feel better. But
let's be real. Let's be even more real than we're being, again, with like information we're privy to, or just like stuff that's gotten out there. There are people who I don't really care for, but they've got apparently some sources, and they're right. Like, there's a report going around, in terms of everything that I've heard, or everything that I kind of know. Like, it's fucking obvious anyway. They thought they had a season 2, so it's like there's a lot of like, why would you announce books, and why would you do this, and why would you book Manny for D23 in Celebration? How dare you? Why were you leading them along? And well, it's not it, dude. They thought they had a season 2 until that fucking day. Like, until that day.
What was it, like hours allegedly?
Hours. Like, you can kind of glimpse this. I mean, everybody obviously has to toe the line and not say stuff, but like, shout out Joel Aaron, the only Lucasfilm employee who said something about it directly, where he was just like,
I'm paraphrasing.
It's on his, where he was like, the torch that GWL, George Walton Lucas, the thing that George passed to Dave is still firmly in our hands, and we're doing the work, and I wouldn't have been here for 35 years, and like blah blah blah, everything that he had to say, which I'm sure someone will make him delete. It's just like they want to tell the stories that they want to tell. Like, the High Republic has been nothing but a success for them in publishing. Like, it worked its way into the games. It's worked its way into kids animation. Like, they're going to do what they want, but it's at the point now where it's out of their hands. And you look at that Investor Day presentation where they announced all these things, and some of them we've gotten, and some of them are still in the works. Some of them aren't coming at all. But that was a different time. 2020 changes everything. That's when everyone thought, okay, the world's different, so we have to put all of our chips on streaming. But streaming has always been a bubble waiting to burst. Netflix, depending on who you believe, has never gone into profit. Disney Plus just went into profit for the first time this month because of Deadpool and Inside Out pushes. Like, and so it's just like, this is a not feasible thing to do. And they haven't announced anything going forward for live action shows. It's just Ahsoka season 2 after Andor. Yeah. That's because the industry's changing. Notice how we're shifting back to a movie focus. And Acolyte being the thing to pay for it fucking sucks. But like, the misinformation and the fan rage that becomes anti-art bullshit. Like, it becomes actively anti-art. Like, seeing people say, why not cancel Ahsoka instead? Or, why do we need more Mandalorian and Grogu? Like, cancel that instead. I'm tired of that. It's like, we shouldn't have
the slop and the schlock.
The slop. Yeah. The slop. Yeah. I mean, if you're out there actively saying slop and you're not being funny, and even then, I cannot endorse. Like, this is I cannot. Mute's mid forever. Yeah, you should also mute slop forever. Hi Nick, thanks for joining us. Charlie here, like, the why announce now? Because concept artists, production designers, set builders, creature team all need to know if they're going to work. Exactly. Like, they need to know what they're being assigned to.
They also didn't announce. Like, that's the other big thing. Like, I think one thing, just hearing you talk about Deadline saying canceled, like, everybody running with that, it like immediately in my head triggered the Allison Hightower. What Viserys intended no longer has any meaning anymore. Right? Like, it's like, once that got out, it didn't matter. It didn't matter with Disney's like, or films like, oh yeah, I know, we just made one, or we intended to make more, or whatever. Like, once it got out that canceled was the word, you weren't gonna escape that.
And it's unfortunate, man. And it's like, it's brought out the worst in everybody, and because of that, nobody is able to focus on the real thing, which is like the suits The suits are the enemy in this situation. They took the ball out of Lucasfilm's court. It is obvious on every level. If you think that the people there, particularly Dave Filoni and the story people like Rain Roberts and the other filmmakers, if you think that they want to make less Star Wars, that is an insane opinion. That is an insane opinion. And a lot of it too, like just to focus on like Dave for a second, and as it pertains to like stan culture, like to have witnessed the arc of like him being an indie band that then became a mainstream band and now people want to act like they hate it is phenomenally frustrating. Just like us, like cataclysmically pisses me off, not because I know him or because his value reflects mine or because it's parasocial. I don't know the man. I've never met him. I know you got to meet him once at an early celebration. Like never spoken to the guy. It's not personal. This could be anyone. This shit happens a lot. It happens with lots of people. And it's why I've said before, I'm okay with Bryce not doing her own thing and just showing up and killing it every once in a while and leaving. Because the second she gets her own thing, they're going to fucking turn on her.
Yeah. And then with everybody, like I noticed a lot with Lin-Manuel Miranda, like he was a genius. Now Miranda's gonna pop out. Like, you know, see with him, Taika Waititi, like he was the savior until he wasn't.
You've seen it. We saw it with J.J. Abrams between, you know, Force Awakens and Rise. How not that everybody like loves Force Awakens, I think it's perfect. It had its detractors, but like his biggest crime was what? Taking the characters he created and further creating them, like for continuing the story. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of people that's happened with, but like the immediate like let's blame him because we don't like what he's making. Okay, well, why don't you just like move over and look at something else in Star Wars? Like, I don't understand why people don't celebrate the fact that there are different kinds. Instead, they get mad at the fact that one kind happens to be successful. Guess what? They don't get to decide that. The world decides that. They don't get to decide that Mandalorian and Grogu is a hit.
Yeah, like that's one thing where, you know, again, probably people who mean well but are lashing out. Like, well, yeah, why do? Oh, I guess we just have to deal with more Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm like, yeah, you do, because unlike the Acolyte, unfortunately, they changed the world. Like, they became a global phenomenon. And they still have that power. Like, even that reports as of a few months ago, Mandalorian is still the highest streamed thing on Disney Plus
by a lot.
Yeah,
by a lot.
And it's
like not even in terms of Star Wars, it's not close.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, that's the reality. And I don't want to live. I'm like you. I don't want to live in a world where it's, well, you get one, because we were sold a buffet, and I don't want to see them taking things off the menu, right? Like, I don't want that. None of us want that. None of us want less. Or some people do. They're the do less and make it good people. But like, yeah, like that is the reality, and it's not. I don't understand the instinct to turn on Star Wars for the sake of Star Wars. Like, I don't get that instinct.
Which is different. Like, we should caveat, because people will take that statement and be like, "Oh, so you just like everything? So you just accept everything? You just that's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying. We all have our least favorite. What we're saying is advocating suddenly for less of it to exist, or making enemies out of people you don't know, is parasocial and fucking weird. Weird to do that.
Yeah.
It's annoying and it's weird. But it has to be this. It's like, no, they are one team. They are one team, and they have their different approaches. Like, do you think like Tony Gilroy in his right mind would argue for the company that is facilitating his show to take hits and have to cancel things? Because no, he would not. No, he would not do that, because he's a creative first. Like, he was out there giving speeches.
Did anyone watch him? Like, yeah, that's exactly where I was gonna go. Like, did anyone watch him do that? Now you would think he'd be pro, like, oh yeah, screw that show.
And it's like you know, not to make this like a Octo Radio Imperial Senate cross over and just like have a real like a nerdier Star Wars conversation. But like we are both, and so are our friends, fucking sick of the whole like it's just nostalgia slop that they want to feed you or whatever. Like let's be real about this for a second. Let's actively be real about this for a second. The $2 billion movie and its $1 billion and $1 billion sequels, the sequel trilogy,
Eli, take notes.
On the back.
You're gonna need this for later.
Yeah, take notes. Was on the back of new characters. Yes, it had the classics too. It had the classics too. All right, so let's just but it was on the back of new characters. One of those new characters is returning in films. At least one of them. So that's new. The first marquee game series. Well, actually, before even that, the marquee game series returning in Battlefront 2 was on the back of a new character as its lead. The marquee game series that is ongoing and will soon be a trilogy when they finish Jedi 3 is on the back of new characters. Yes, Vader's in them, and you see some faces, but like Cal, all those people. So like the sequel heroes, Iden Versio, Cal Kestis, Cassian Andor, I know this might shock people, is a character who is still pretty fucking new. He's only been around for 8 of the almost 50 years. So when you tell me that Mandalorian and Grogu existing is just them going in the nostalgia slop, or that you saw Zeb in some leaked D23 footage and you want to act like that's just showing me people that I know. Zeb has only been around for 10 years. Mandalorian and Grogu haven't, as of this episode, have not even been around for 5.
Yeah.
Have not even been around for 5. And you want to act like what? They're going to the well more than they did with Solo or Boba Fett, things that they also have gotten rid of. And you want to tell me with a straight face that is what, because he's Yoda's species? Like, I don't give a fuck of what species he is. Like, it just like it actively makes no, like, it's beyond what I can even comprehend of like, it's just nostalgia. Okay, so Mission Impossible going on 8 is not nostalgia. Bond going toward what was the next one's 27, I think. Like that. That's not nostalgia. So we have an Avatar theme park, and we're going toward the third one for a movie that came out in 09. Not nostalgia. Like, what are we actively talking about here? What is it? Is it nostalgia slop, or is it just you like some of it more, and what you like needs to be the only thing that gets made? Call me fucking crazy, but I'm excited for Andor season 2 and the Mandalorian and Grogu because I like Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I think this is. I don't want to generalize, but now I will proceed to generalize. I feel like this is a post 2015 thing in particular, because it's just one of those things where like, so you see all these people now. You have the like, I don't know how like cool we are with naming names, so I won't. But there's a guy with a particular Twitter account that
you can float a name, put it in the private chat.
I can't stand. It's like Metaplex something. I don't know.
Yeah, that guy sucks. Yeah,
he's public, so he can take some heat. People like him talking about like it's like the future of Star Wars is so dire. It's so dire, man. I'm like, oh, because you think like some of the stuff is mediocre, maybe? Like, is that what dire means? Because I remember 16-year gap between films, and then the one that came out, everybody hated. Do we remember that? Was the future of Star Wars dire then? And when I say everybody, of course, I don't mean everybody. I mean the public perception. That
the public perception when you and I were children. And I were children, me in elementary and you in middle. We heard it all the time of there's only 3 good ones. There's only 3 good ones. And then Clone Wars came out and they fucking hated that movie too.
Yeah. But like was Star Wars dire then? And then it's like the same thing. It's like if you didn't like the Clone Wars, if you're a good old Star Wars fan, you love all 6 movies. But if you didn't like the Clone Wars, was Star Wars dead then? Because the Clone Wars was the only shit they were making. And it's like it's like, okay, so I guess Star Wars died. And I feel like this idea of existing on this level, I think, is a post 2015 Disney, here's a slate of shit coming. And people build their expectations, they build their favorites before they come out, they build the things I'm most excited for before it comes out, they rail on shit before it comes out. The Bad Batch was just a TV show, and I don't want that. And then of course they go make content and make money off it. And it's like, so I don't want to say like it's a Disney fan era thing, because like a lot of people came in 2015 and have been perfectly normal. It's just like, I feel like it is a really strange, maybe predictable even, like side effect of this "what are you doing for me next" system. And like 100%. I think that feeds into a lot of like points being made about Star Wars Celebration, the convention. Because like the first Star Wars Celebration I went to was one of my favorites. And the only thing that was coming out was Clone Wars Season 5 and Episode 2 and 3 in 3D. That was it. And I never like felt the instinct of like, well, what's the point of going? They're not like making anything new. Whereas now it's sort of like there's this almost sentiment of like, well, what's the point of being invested in anything? And you know, like why even hang out here? It's like, because it's bigger a show being canceled. Like, and that I think is the overall point I'm trying to make. Like, we are in a 50-year, almost 50 span of Star Wars existing, and Star Wars standing tall amidst industry shifts, fandom shifts, internet. Star Wars has stood the test of time. And if you're gonna sit here online and tell me that Star Wars is dying because we got a show that was really technically only greenlit for one season, not moving forward, or blah blah blah, and it's like, that doesn't negate all the things we talked about in terms of who's losing out on representation and all that. It doesn't negate any of that. But if you're trying to tell me that Star Wars is dying because we lost a show and the streaming world is collapsing, like, no, it's not. And I think we were watching Scotty and Harry's 50-year anniversary highlight reel, right? Like, and like, you're telling me Star Wars is dead? Like, because we don't need any of this Disney Plus stuff for that what we were watching to happen, because that is what keeps Star Wars alive. Going back and watching the beginning and being like, this is funny. Like that is what keeps it alive. It's so much bigger than the shit you like getting canceled. Like that I think is like this insane lack of perspective people have, where it's just.
And you made a point too, tying in with the perspective stuff, of also just like in terms of narratives, like, so a thing that is not complete is not worth engaging with or loving anymore. Like, I get the argument of like investment and everything. I want to be clear about that. Like, I get in the streaming world. That's why people have accurately called Netflix like a 1-2 season graveyard, because it's littered with shows that have never been given their full due, and that does suck. But in terms of like, and again, I want to be very careful with how I say this, because I have empathy for a lot of specific people, but like, especially people that were on like, people in the marginalized groups that are affected, women, people of color, non-binary people, like, et cetera, Asian fans. I mean, come on, like, this is like one of the biggest wins that they've had, and that, to get dragged away. But the whole, like, I just don't know if I can invest in anything going forward. And it's like, all right, well, not to take away the hurt, but I would just add, Clone Wars has been canceled twice. I would add, A Song of Ice and Fire remains 2 away from being unfinished, or from being finished. It's like, this has happened. It will happen again. I didn't mean to just paraphrase another iconic sci-fi franchise by saying that, but like, it has, and it will. And like,
Jimi Hendrix, like,
like when you combine the stuff we're saying here with like the nostalgia argument too, it's like, even Clone Wars, a show which like if Clone Wars started now, could you imagine? Like, imagine a reality where Clone Wars started now, and it was like, we got a new animated series, and they'd be like, oh, really? And people would be like, oh, it's Anakin and Obi-Wan? Nostalgia. Like, like that show could only exist on the back of pre-existing characters, and even it has died twice, and had to do 2 separate returns. And it's like the future of the Acolyte. This is not the show for that conversation. Like, what could happen with the characters and all that. That's Imperial Senate Pod, that's Force Center, like, and you're all going to get into it. But like, in terms of Star Wars, it's like, you're going to tell me that like this is indicative of a company direction when there's a show coming out this year still that is mostly original characters. All but one glup shitto ass pirate that we know is an original character. Every single one. And I just don't understand like this hyperbole. Like, I don't want to see things end so that my things can go on. I don't want to assign blame to people. Like, there's an account on Twitter that I'm not going to name because I don't want to be accused of bullying somebody that obviously can't function like an adult on Twitter. But she's just been, I also shouldn't assume it's she. They've just been going off about Dave and all this and the insults and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not like, he's been down this road too. They fucking hated Ahsoka. They hated her. They were saying mean ass shit about a fictional little girl for years. It's just devoid of reality. And yeah, Jared, being in a dead fandom is like a fucked up rite of passage. It happens to everybody. It's frustrating, man, and it pisses me off because the bad faith reactions from people that know better is almost more frustrating, because it's like, I know the assholes are gonna asshole no matter what, but like the people over here that are saying all these things of like, I'm sick of Mandalorian and Grogu. You don't have to go. You don't have to go, but that means something to people. And I keep saying I don't want to make this a Star Wars podcast, but like, if you're gonna tell me that that's just like, and again, we've gone down this road too before, the action figure complaint of like, it's just Star Wars should be playing with action figures. I saw this from people I like, and I saw this from people I can't stand, and so it's a pervasive complaint.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's not like limited to one party.
Yeah,
for sure.
Why doesn't somebody tell me what that means right now? So Clone Wars in 08 wasn't playing with prequel action figures by that same logic. Like, because we had them all. Them Hasbro lines were popping off. We had them all. We had all.
I also would never make that a complaint. Like, just my own fan. That's never a complaint to me, because that is how we have lived. So many of us have lived Star Wars that way. And what a dream it would be to say, wow, I went from playing with my action figures to making to making $1 billion like beautiful masterpiece. And like that would be that's like such an amazing thing. And like, it's on the same side, like I consider the term Star Wars for adults like an oxymoron. Like I don't believe in that phrase. And so when people like take Andor and use that as like a way to compliment it, I'm like, that's not a win for me. Like, it's like, I get sort of what you're saying, but I believe that. Like, and
like,
and I
you
think
could still sit a child down and watch that with them, but would they pick up on everything? No, but like, it's not ever crossing lines where it's no longer for them. But people want to act like it is because it's presented in a more prestige way, as if it gives them, and we saw this in 2022 when that show came out, of like, oh, okay, some of you have been waiting for the excuse to take down your posters and get rid of some or exert some internalized shame over liking something that is for children. And I don't have that shame, and I don't you don't have that shame. I don't, our friends don't. I don't look down on imaginative play as a bad thing, because it's essential to growing up.
I think it's vital. I think it's vital even now. Like,
even as adults.
I don't care how old you are. Yeah. And like, then we're getting into all sorts of things. I can go rail on the Lego company now about this. But like, I don't believe that should be absent from Star Wars, and the way I think it's not absent from Andor, but I think they're like what frustrates me is the people who like to say that it is, and that inherently makes it better. And yeah, I don't like, I really just don't agree. I never have of using Star Wars to bash Star Wars, like,
and they act like it wasn't an Acolyte, like it wasn't a huge Jedi fantasy in a lot of ways. Like it wasn't like, for some people, it was the very first time they ever saw a Wookiee Jedi. For many people, I'm sure, because they're not watching the animation. And like, it blows my mind that like this became some affront, that people internalize this cancellation not as a heartache and not as like just like a brutal casualty of where we are in the entertainment industry, and instead as the people that make Star Wars waging war on fans. What are you talking about? Like, it's just it's not that they've never had stumbles. They have stumbles in things that I like and love. There are things where I'm just like, I wouldn't have done that, or I would have liked this, or I think that, like, but it's never from a place of like, let me now assign morality to it or assign intentions to it that I can't prove or that are unfounded, or like I think that, again, because nothing is ever just like so cut and dry. I'm really, really upset about what we lost in terms of representation in Acolyte. But does that mean that I think they have a thesis of like, well, it's going to cater to the white guys online? No, I don't think that, because Ahsoka and Andor exist. Like, Ahsoka is run by,
I mean, I think
it's like the director slates, the producers, the fact that it's like an Asian woman and an Afro-Latina woman and another woman, and it goes on and on and on. I mean, Iman Isfandi, Diego Luna, Adria Ariona, like, you're gonna like, I still like all that and want that too. I'm not gonna be like, that's less.
I think that's something people have conveniently, whether they do it intentionally or not, like, they have ignored that side of it. Where like, absolutely, we have to say the voices behind the Acolyte on screen, losing them is a real loss. And I think that sometimes people are taking that and using that to imply that the other things don't have that. Like, we lost the one show that was diverse. And wait. It's like, are you telling me that they like now Star Wars is not allowing people of marginalized communities, or marginalized in media? It's not allowing them anymore, because let's read some names, and we go down the entirety of what we want to call the Mandoverse. Every show, an executive producer level, at director level, at cast level, like, it's full of people.
To say, it's no, neither of us are saying, to be clear again, because you got to caveat everything, neither of us are saying you can't do better. You can always do better. Everything can be better.
There's always it's just the idea,
the next thing.
It's just the idea that it's like it all of a sudden doesn't exist, because it does. Like, you can go through and read all kinds of names on.
I mean, we talked about this off air.
Skeleton Crew.
I love Andor, and I think it's wonderful, and I love seeing these Latino heroes, these space poppies out there, whether that's Pedro, whether that's Diego. Like, I love it. But like, let's be real, like, brass tacks, like Tony Gilroy, who seems like a great dude, his hiring practices are the least inclusive of the entire thing. They just are. Just
it's like outside of a woman, like, it's all
just
white. It's all white.
It's either his family members, or white people.
But we don't talk about that because Andor makes us feel good.
We like that one more. Whereas like Dave Filoni, who now you're all insisting is behind this, even though we know for a fact that he helped Leslie on it and was always there, this guy and John have facilitated, the inclusion of people like Deborah Chow, who then went on to lead one of these things, on as a director. Bryce Dallas Howard, Rick Famuyiwa, Taika Waititi, Lee Isaac Chung, Rachel Morrison, Carl Weathers, one of the greats, and I'm so sad he's gone. Like their teams, Jennifer Corbett on the animation side, Athena Portillo on the animation side, Amanda Rose Munoz on the animation side. Like they have put they're doing what we ask people to do when they have privilege.
Yeah.
And it's just mind-blowing that it's like, well, I don't like what they did with Ahsoka, so I'm going to be upset.
Yeah.
And
I think again, that's like the part of the lashing out that I think really upsets me and like bothers me. It's like you can't just pretend that it's not happening. Like because it is. And so it's like I'm sorry if you don't connect to the Mandalorian. Like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I personally do, so I can see why it would suck, because I would hate for someone to watch this and not enjoy it.
I also understand like the pain. Like I want to again emphasize for anyone that joined us after we started, we hate this decision. Like we really do. And like this sucks. But I also feel like if you're going to talk about the industry, you got to pay attention to the industry and you got to understand what happened. You have to understand what happened. You have to understand that this would have happened to Andor if there's not a season 2 commitment, because it and Acolyte were at the bottom numerically, just statistically. Like they were the bottom. If it wasn't for the fact that Gilroy already had his 24 episode agreement, like it would have been screwed. So like, let's be clear about that too. Like this is ruthless calculus, and it's also about framing, because they know the cottage industry of clicks is always going to force people over into the side of things of like a cancellation. Ha ha. That's so salacious. Okay. Why did no Marvel series not named Loki get a season 2? Was that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cancellations? Like, or was it just we made what we need? There's rumblings about a Moon Knight season 2 or a Ms. Marvel, but like no movement on any of those except Loki and What If. But like excluding What If and X-Men, just talking about these live actions, because we know Lucasfilm Animation is fine and dandy and they're on to the next thing already. But it's like I didn't see any of these stories for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I didn't see it for WandaVision. I didn't see it for She-Hulk. I didn't see it for like, it's just, these are all things that just did what they had to do. But of course, because for some reasons, people just can't fucking think when it comes to Star Wars. It's been the thing over the last 10 years of like, it is the thing where people just cannot use their brains whatsoever. Like a beloved Star Trek series was canceled.
Yeah, that's true. Can I tie this to the DNC? Star Wars is big tent. Star Wars is the big tent approach, and you are going to get so many different kinds of people involved in its, being interested in what goes on, and like, and because the big tent, you're not going to get 100% bad or good. You're going to get a lot. I think that is why that, like, I think, and not to say Marvel isn't huge. Marvel is in a lot of ways modern Star Wars, right? Like in terms of pop culture impact, like
100%. Yeah.
But I think the Star Wars tent is so big that, like, that's why you don't see those stories, right? Like, and you do see them with Star Wars.
Yeah, and because Star Wars, unlike Marvel, and DC is complicated because it's had so many different iterations, but like unlike Marvel, Star Wars is multi-generational, whereas like Marvel is just now becoming multi-generational. We are just now having our kids, as a generation.
I'm doing something on Saturday that I never would have thought would happen.
Which is
I'm going to the Infinity Saga concert experience at the Hollywood Bowl.
That's gonna rock.
Conducted Gustavo Dudamel, and so again, just speaking of like in terms of how Marvel has grown, like would you have ever imagined that?
Not at all. Not
fireworks spectacular of the Infinity Saga.
That's crazy. That's gonna be really cool. Yeah. But even then, that speaks to the point, because what's the oldest of the films that they could do there? 2008. You know, they don't go back to the 70s and everything, and that's why Star Wars can be so salacious, because they know that they can get in on the grandpas and dads and everything, and they whisper in their ear and create this division, create this kind of the shit that people do in music of like, there's no good rock and roll anymore, like all that. They can get in on that with Star Wars. It's extremely frustrating. I would recommend going to the Nerd Academy podcast hosted by Jared, who was in the comments earlier, but I know he listens while he's at work, so he might be doing work. But if you go to Nerd Academy, we did a crossover between that show and my show, Octo Radio, a two-parter talking about the culture of this and you know, the Phantom Menace, how we got here, Gamergate, the evolutions, all that, in a really like break it down academically type way. So definitely check that out if this stuff interests you. And it should interest you if you're a fan, because it's affecting your experience. But no, Jared, you're Jared with the name spelled correctly. I'm talking about Jared with the name spelled incorrectly. I'm talking about Jarod. Yeah, Jarod.
Krypton.
It's yeah, exactly. It's extremely frustrating. This whole conversation has been frustrating, and I've dropped swear words more in this conversation than I have on any episode of this show, because it's pissing me the fuck off to see the bad faith. I've had to really restrain myself online because it's just like, I don't want to poo-poo anybody that's just coming at it from a place of hurt. But like you gotta try to use your brain a little bit with this, and like really understand that the people making Star Wars don't want to take it down. They're not playing some political game with the people that, if they weren't working there, they would be fans anyway. Like it's extremely weird to see sort of like the way that stan culture has infected everything. Jonah brings up a good point. This is true too. Play devil's advocate. The reason Marvel shows didn't get the same treatment is we thought the stories would tie into movies and we'd see them again. And Jonah, not even as a theory, that has been proven true. I mean, you can't say Falcon and Winter Soldier was canceled because we're getting Cap 4. Like they're doing more of the interweaving thing. Yeah. And like maybe that is the future. I'm not saying they'll do an Acolyte standalone film.
I mean,
but
we still haven't quite seen if that model works, right? Like,
yeah, we know.
Still don't really know
until Cap 4 comes out.
The Marvels was like the first step, right?
And they got sent out to die. Yeah,
that was a really ugly time and got treated really badly. So yeah, like this is gonna be really interesting. I don't know if experiment is the right word, but like just to see the full effect of what it looks like to have.
I mean, will people? Because it's like, look, they're lucky that Mandalorian season 3, Doctor Strange 2 is another great one, for sure. We're lucky that Mandalorian season 3 ended in such a way that it felt like the closing of a book, literally doing sort of the Looney Tunes like circle shot on Grogu playing with the frog, Din with his feet up. Like it felt like Mandalorian book 1, we close it, and now with this movie, it's the new status quo. It's Din working for the New Republic under the table. It's Grogu as an apprentice. Like they're in their next thing, and that's gonna help. But like, will we ever get to the point where it's like, watch 6 episodes of Skeleton Crew and then watch Skeleton Crew the movie and then come back for? I don't know if we'll ever get there. That's a lot.
Dave's movie is potentially that, right? Like, if we do we know, is it like general acceptance that it's sort of like the resolving of Thrawn or whatever?
Seems like it'll be after Ahsoka season 2 and kind of like close the,
because that's what they said right a while ago. The thing was like
a climactic story event.
Right, sort of planning everything. So like that could be our Star Wars version of, well, you should have watched the Disney Plus shows kind of thing. It'll be really interesting how that plays out. I'm gonna watch it like 50 times too, just so you know.
Oh, I'm going to look, man. Nick and I I'm going to see Mandalorian. I'm going to see it in standard. I'm going to see it in 3D. I'm going to see it in Dolby. I'm going to see it in IMAX. I'm going to see it in 4D. I'm going to go see it in 4DX. I'm going to see it in D-Box. I'm going to see it in Screen X with that stupid 270 degree. I'm there.
That was Rise of Skywalker because I was like, I don't know next time we're gonna see Star Wars in a theater. So I was like, I'm D-boxing it. I'm 3D
going all the way, man.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm going to see it at the drive-in. I'm going everywhere.
I want it crackly through the radio.
Because I like this world and I want it to succeed, and I hate that we got to the place where it's like the cancellation of one of these things could absolutely 35 going to see it at the New Bev 100% going to see if Quentin Tarantino screens Mandalorian and Grogu in 35 at his little theater with his coffee shop next door. I'll cheer. I'll be crashing on Nikki's couch with all my ticket stubs all over.
I live right next to the Vista, so
hell yeah,
we got Quentin next door.
But it's like, overall, I think we both are angry about the fact that like you couldn't even grieve this in peace. Couldn't even just deal with the assholes in peace, because it immediately becomes this whole like conspiratorial, why do they want this and not that. The company does not have wants. The company's not a person. That's the other thing too with like the let's tweet the Star Wars account and let them know. It's like it's well intentioned. I understand that, but like there's not some Mr. Star Wars is not checking that and then going to the other Mr. and Mrs. Star Wars. It's like a guy running around with the Star Wars profile picture as his head is not like a message from the people. Like it doesn't happen that way. You just have to embrace things and just try to roll with the punches and know that things suck, but like Justina Ireland, Star Wars author and just all around just success story in this world. I mean, she created Vernestra Row and like all these things. Like she posted a TikTok that's like, hey, my books are still coming. Like, you love this story, like just like find it, go to books, go over here, like, and like you said, like talk about this stuff with your fellow fans, make silly videos, do crazy sketches like on Bombadcast, make shows, start a podcast about rewatching the Acolyte or diving into all the characters. Like anyone can do this. I hate that fact sometimes, but anyone can do this. I
always love those things. I love those things. It's like similarly with the internet. It's like you just change the inflection, and it's like a dual-sided statement. So like with the internet, it's like, wow, everyone. Oh my god, everyone has a voice, and then oh my god, everyone has a voice.
It's true, 100%. Yeah, I am breaking Star Wars kayfabe. I 100% am. Like it's a company, it's an office, and it's a studio, and it's a subsidiary. Like it's just like people gotta stop imparting all their personal shit onto a brand, and it comes down to that the Stanislavski quote that I've brought up 100 times. That I'm not original in doing that, but like the difference between loving yourself in the art or the art in yourself, and you gotta love the art in yourself. It's so much more peaceful than like I need to be validated. We see this across everything, pop music, with like Chappell Roan now posting videos of like basically saying, please leave me alone, like you're not entitled to like my time when I'm off the clock and everything, like things like that needs to be said. I'm excited hopefully to get word from Leslie soon. She seems like somebody who understands the media landscape, and like she was very pro like talking as much as she could throughout the entire season and expanding on things. Like I would love for her to be able to speak her piece. Manny at Star Wars Celebration, if that still happens, if I was him,
I hope it does, so he can still make money off it.
That's true too. He should be able, and he's doing that at Dragon Con this weekend. He's going to be at Dragon Con, so
he should buy his. I'm not going to tell him what to do, but like I think it's a great opportunity to get the love off the fans that he deserves, and get money. Like it should be at least you can get out of the Disney relationship now. And I think another, like, I don't want to give people false hope either. It's an ugly industry. There's no reason to be like incredibly hopeful. But I do want to say there were 4 characters known as the Bad Batch who got cut from a season of a show that then got canceled outright, that then came back and ended, then came back again and ended properly. And then the people cut on the cutting room floor got given 3 seasons of one of the most beautiful animated shows I've ever watched.
Yeah.
So all to say, life finds a way. Everything works as it does.
I mean, we're seeing we got a game coming out in 7 days that Kira's in. Like things are.
So it's just like it's just one of those things. Who knows what happens? We may look back in D23 or Star Wars Celebration 2038, and it's come on people, welcome Amanda Stenberg, and we got more. Like you just don't know. I don't want to give you false hope. It's just you don't know. And so just roll with the punches. That's the only way through. And ride the wave. Like to be clear, we don't need any of this. Like you and me to be fans. Like all this has not 1 inch the meter on my Star Wars fandom, right? No. Like I don't feel affected in that way. And I think as long as we all sort of, not turn this into a Star Wars show, but like as long as we all do in whatever respective thing, remember to remember what's personal to you, what matters, the experiences you have. Like it's gonna be fine. We will be fine. We will make it through. We're gonna have another 50 years of Star Wars. I guarantee it. We're gonna be making Star Wars after we're all long gone. So it's like, just we'll make it. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it will be fine. Just stay true. Use this as an opportunity to lean in, and give your fellow fans a hug. Think about the things that you enjoy, and stop spreading misinformation. This whole like the merchandise. Yeah, the merchandise. What's happening with the merchandise? And it seems like that's like not entirely accurate. That a lot of it was based in things just selling out. Wait for word on things. Wait for word from people that know stuff. Stop with this bullshit of like blaming certain creators because you don't like. There are a lot of creators I don't like. There are a lot of people whose work does not resonate with me. I'm not blaming.
There are people I don't like whose work I like.
Yes, like that happens too.
This is all the messy ways in which it exists.
100%. So we're gonna wrap it there, just because we did about an hour plus on each topic, which like we should know. But like
thanks everybody for
thanks for sticking with us. Jonah's buying a copy of Outlaws right now. I encourage everyone to do the same. I think if you pre-order certain editions of it, you get a couple days early playtime, something like that. So yeah, everybody, anyone can do this. Alden's eyes narrow. Yeah. Just be nice, be kind, try to be open to things, try to just say that one's not for me, but like it still has the right to exist, and just like really understand that like this tribalist bullshit that happens in these fandom spaces is useless, and that
it doesn't need to happen.
It doesn't need to happen, and the corporations are something else, and you should be criticizing that. You should not be criticizing the people that wanted to do this thing, and as if they suddenly just took it away from you, as if there's these camps, right? Like that happened a lot during Andor too. Not to go down a whole other tangent as we're trying to close, but like during Andor, there was a lot of like shocking that this was made. It's almost like they weren't being paid attention to. They were so focused on these shows that they let Andor. That's so fucking stupid. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Like this is all the same.
Please unplug and reboot.
Yeah,
like that.
Absolutely.
That's what I got.
Be nice, be excellent, and if you're in the mood for a laugh as we close out tonight, one night only in San Francisco, Ken Knapsack, that's where he is, Mark Ellis, Nick Scarpino, Josh Makuga, all together. You can get tickets for a one night only comedy special with these 4 gents at markellis.live for tickets. Even if you can't get a ticket, just go stand outside until you see Ken in his beanie walking out, and then grab a hold of him and say the Lannisters send their regards. No, I'm kidding. Buy him a drink or something. Do something. Hit up Josh. Josh, who as has been noted, just suffered a tremendous loss in his family, but still wants to go on and provide some laughter and everything. And I think it'll be really, really cool. Everybody go check that out, and just stay tuned in general for more. For us, anytime Fridays, obviously in the 2:00 Eastern slot. Casterly Talk is going to be ongoing. Nikki will be appearing there again. The Rings of Power coverage is going to be probably like the House of Dragon coverage after each episode, which will make it Thursdays this time instead of Sundays, which I vastly prefer. But at the same time, they're premiering 3 of these suckers back to back to back. And it's like, one. So that first one, it might just be me and you. We just play it by ear and see when it, because I don't know the run times of them, right? It's like, I can't set a start time.
Yeah, we don't know.
So with House of the Dragon, it was like, I know that by 10:30 I'm good to go Eastern. So we'll see what happens with that.
Absurdly long, yeah.
For sure. For you, I know Yub Nub Club is ongoing. You want to tell people where they can find them?
Yeah, you can check out, especially for more Star Wars talk, you can check out the Imperial Senate podcast at MSenatePod on Twitter. And just Imperial Senate podcast. The feed has our regular show, and then it also has the Yub Nub Club, which I host myself. And actually, the most recent episode I did with one of our friends, Josh Woodbury, who's also interested in all this stuff. And he and I actually just been to D23, and we sort of recorded an episode pre-Acolyte news, pre all this. Really just sort of like did that in and out of like how do you maintain excitement and joy while also sort of acknowledging the absolute mess these corporations inflict upon us in terms of how they view entertainment and media and how they treat stories. So like if you sort of want a tangential conversation to this that doesn't have the same context as this conversation because we didn't know what was going to happen to Acolyte, you can check that out. It's the Yub Nub Club, episode 4 on the Imperial Senate podcast feed.
Wonderful. And check out the ISP backlog. Look forward to some stuff from both of our shows. Octa Radio has been on hold for a few months now, and I'm starting to feel the energy again. But I will say, not confirming this, but I am pretty sure that I'm going to come out of episodic coverage retirement for Skeleton Crew, mostly because I want to back that with my whole ass, and just be like really there for those kids and that vision and everything. And so look forward to some of that. And then Ken will be back. We'll do more of this show. Excited for other things coming down the pipeline. Thank you for everybody that joined us for this extra long DNC Star Wars special. Rick Villanueva with a thumbs up right there. Love you, Rick. Check out Rick Villanueva just everywhere, first of all, on Twitter and Instagram and everything. But as a person in this space, as a podcaster, one of my favorites, just somebody who really dives into what this stuff means. Check out Jam Transmissions. And yes, thank you, Jonah, for coming by. Thanks, A94M, JMB, Jared, thank you so much. We'll see you on the Ring streams. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we will catch you next time right here on Anytime with Ken and Alden.